In this episode of the Awaken Podcast, we're going deep on how to get unstuck. Every single one of us feels stuck in certain areas throughout our lifetime, and it's normal and you don't have to stay there. The most successful people are the ones who are getting unstuck more efficiently and learning how to turn setbacks into breakthroughs and wisdom. So in this episode, we're going to introduce you to something called the thinking feeling loop. This is a game changer. It's going to help you to understand why you feel the way you feel and why you actually get stuck and how to get unstuck. This is a powerful conversation. I think it's a must listen that's going to change your life if you apply what we share. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Awaken Podcast,
where we share practical spirituality for modern living.
Join us as we dive deep into conversations about healing and transformation.
Let's go.
We are back.
Here we are.
I'm so ready for this. Ready to dive deep. We are going to set an intention in a moment.
Cheers.
I've got a matcha.
I'm sipping on peppermint tea.
All right, let's take a deep breath.
So you know how we do it. You can close down your eyes, taking a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. What's your intentions for today, Hella?
My intention is to help people get unstuck, get inspired, and to simplify some things that can feel really abstract, to make it clear and actionable.
I want to inspire people and remind people why the work matters and what's possible through doing inner work, why we should even bother doing it. So that's my intention.
Cheers to that.
Let's go.
Okay, so where I want to start this is by acknowledging that every single one of us goes through phases of feeling stuck. And your ability to get unstuck is the key to unlocking your best life possible. I think so many people stay stuck for way too long. It's unnecessary. It's super draining. And it can kind of be like a snowball effect where when you get stuck and you don't know how to get unstuck, you start developing additional negative, disempowering beliefs about yourself and about life and what you're capable of that don't need to be there and keep you feeling helpless and hopeless. So let's just acknowledge that getting stuck sometimes is normal and you don't have to stay there. So if you feel stuck right now, if you feel a bit uninspired or low energy or you're unsure in a certain area, no problem. We have got you and there is a way out. And if you're feeling like you're doing well in life and you're like, yeah, I'm actually not feeling super stuck, but maybe there are certain areas where you're looping in a pattern that you're not enjoying, then this conversation is 100% also for you.
Or maybe there's some areas of your life where you just want to take things to the next level and experience more joy, more love, more excitement, more abundance, more vitality, more energy, whatever it might be for you.
Like your version of stuck could just be a plateau where you're like, I'm kind of coasting and I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So one of the ways we keep ourselves stuck is through the stories that we tell ourselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves can either be working for us or against us. They can either be draining our energy or they can be giving us energy, supporting us to feel our best or to feel our worst. So a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves aren't actually based in truth. Because we're meaning-making machines, there's what's happening, right, around us, to us, for us, and then there's the meaning that we're placing upon what's happening. And a lot of the meaning that we're placing on what's happening is the old story from the past that's looping into the present moment. And that old story from the past is beliefs that formed in our early developmental years. So let's start there.
This story that Lukis is describing is experienced through your thoughts, the thoughts that you are thinking, the way you're looking at the world and what you're telling yourself about it. It's what you think about yourself. It's how you react mentally to situations, experiences, and so on. And it's also experienced through how you feel, your emotions and your energy, how you feel in your body, how you feel in your heart. And it becomes a loop. And that loop is what we call the thinking feeling loop. And it's like a snowball effect, because once you get going on a story and you start thinking a series of thoughts about something, it has a kind of flavor or tone to it, or a frequency, we could say. And following the thoughts comes feelings that are like reactions to those thoughts. And then you start feeling a type of way in your body, and you start experiencing a certain series of emotions. And then you start thinking and reacting mentally to the feelings. And this becomes a loop that allows whatever you're thinking and feeling to grow stronger and bigger. And you start identifying more and more with it if you're unconscious, right? And it can either work for you or against you. And this is what we would call the path of either ascension or dissension, because whatever you're thinking and feeling, the stories that you're telling yourself about you and how your life is are going to lead you to either spiral up into ascension, where you're like, I'm inspired, I feel lit up, I feel like everything's possible for me, I'm creative, let's go, like I'm ready to do this and live my life. I feel open. Or your thinking, feeling loop, that story that you're in is spiraling you down into feeling limited and stuck.
And it can be really tricky, because sometimes the story that you're telling yourself is subconscious. You might not even be consciously aware that you're telling yourself that story. So for example, you go to take action and there might be a subconscious belief there, a limiting belief that this is too hard. I can't do this. What if I fail?
And you're mentally telling yourself that you want to do it and that you've got this, but on some deeper level, which is what Lukis is describing as your subconscious, you feel like you can't, and you're not even aware of that.
Yeah, there's a limiting belief that's actually running the show. So if I believe the story that it's too hard, that it's not going to work out, that I don't have what it takes, or I'm not good enough. If I believe that story, then that generates feelings that are unpleasant and uncomfortable. So for example, if I believe the story it's too hard, then what's the point of trying? So I might feel down, I might feel disconnected from hope, I might feel like it's going to be a waste of my time, I might feel low energy because I feel stuck. I feel like I don't have the power to shift that or create change or to make what I want happen. So when you're telling yourself a disempowering story, even if that's subconscious, then it's going to influence the way you feel and then the way you behave. And that's what we call the thinking, feeling loop. So this is some of the biggest work that I see for humanity right now. And that's a bold statement, but this is where I see a lot of people keeping themselves stuck. Even people that have been deep in the work for so many years and have been doing a lot of inner work, they're aware of their patterns, but there's a lack of applying what they know and integrating things into the present moment to create the shifts in real time.
In our last episode, we spoke about eliminating sloppiness. And I think this is an important point to just acknowledge that aspect of the work, right? And go, even if you're on your inner work, you're doing the things, if you aren't catching yourself when you're in a thinking, feeling loop, then you are sloppy in your management of your own energy and state of being. Period, end of story. Like, that might sound harsh, but I see it again and again and again in people that we work with who are like, I'm doing the meditations, I'm doing breath work. And it's like, okay, that's a tiny percentage of your day. What are you doing with your thoughts and your physiology and your emotions for the rest of the day? And they're reacting and they're unconscious and they're looping and they're out of control and they're going into thoughts and letting these thoughts run and believing the thoughts and not catching it. You need to become like a ninja, like a Jedi, in order to have mastery over your own state of being, including your mind and your physiology. If you aren't conscious, you're going to go unconscious. That's the choice that you have. And most people who are in the work are still unconscious for at least 90% of their day. And so you wonder why you keep going 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's because you keep going unconscious and you need to wake up to the thinking, feeling loops that you're in and course correct.
So I really want to ground this in for people to understand, because if people apply this who are listening now, then it's going to change the game.
Mm-hmm.
So the thinking, feeling loop starts off with a disempowering story that you're telling yourself. And once you become aware of what you're thinking, then you can check in with how you're feeling, because what you're thinking influences how you feel. So when I believe the story that I'm telling myself, first, what is the story you've been telling yourself? What have you been telling yourself? And like I said, it might be sneaky, it might be subconscious. So it might just be running in the background, and it could have been there for the last few days and you haven't given it too much attention, but there's something there that's disempowering.
Mm-hmm.
There's something there that's limiting or negative. So the first step is awareness around what you're thinking. What's the story?
I'm going to share a personal one. So we were talking about this actually the other day, which inspired this whole podcast episode. We were out for the Run Travis Run event with Travis Barker, and we had a little team meeting beforehand, and I was talking to a member of our team, Heidi, about this thinking feeling loop that I was in for years. And my thinking feeling loop was, I don't matter. People care more about Lukis when we're out in public. The reason this came up is because we were about to go into a huge event. This is like 3,500 people. There's a lot of backstage activity going on where there's cool conversations that are happening. And I used to be the wallflower where in those types of situations, I would be like, people want to talk to Lukis, not me. So I'll just hang back in the trailer in the green room, let him do the networking, and I'll just come out if I'm needed. That was a story that I made up.
Can I ask you about the story? So talk to me about the story again. What were you believing in that moment?
So in those moments where I would go into that story, I would feel like I was in your shadow and like people didn't care about me. And we have this part of the brain, which we talk about all the time, called the reticular activating system, the RAS. And so this part of your brain looks for evidence for whatever you believe. And so what I would notice is that I would continually find evidence for people wanting to talk to you or get a photo with you and not me. And then I would have that affirm through repetition, right? My belief. See, they care about Lukis, not you. You're irrelevant. You're not important. And then in response to those thoughts, I would feel my energy going lower. I would feel less motivated.
I want to break it down even more for the listeners. So what was the limiting story that you were believing? Just talk me through it one more time.
Well, to keep it simple, I would say it's nobody cares about me. I'm not important.
So when you believed no one cares about me and I'm not important, then how would that make you feel?
Sad and like giving up.
Sad and like giving up. And then how would you behave when you believed the story and you felt sad and like giving up?
Like I said, I would withdraw. I would become like the wallflower. I would let you take up the space. I'd be quiet.
Yeah, the thing that I really want to land here for the listeners is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So what you tell yourself starts to influence how you feel, and then how you feel starts to influence how you behave. And what you're telling yourself isn't based in truth. It's based in programming from the past. So in that moment, how would you have wanted to feel? And what would have been a more empowering story?
This is exactly what turned it around for me. So pay attention, everyone. What I realized is that what I deep down wanted was to feel valued, seen, secure, confident, relaxed, and important.
Yeah. And if you felt all those things, then how would you behave?
I would behave like I am worthy. I would behave with confidence. I would take up more space. I would contribute more. And instead of hiding, I would be more involved and expressive, which is exactly what I've shifted into. Okay, we're going to take a quick break from the episode because I want to share with you something really exciting that we have coming up called the Intuitive Impact Academy. It's a given that if you are tuning into this podcast, you're interested in personal growth and being the best version of yourself. And next year, we want to take life to the next level, right? We want to keep growing and applying what we're learning. We are all about embodiment, which means walking your talk and taking that powerful wisdom that you receive from your spiritual practice, the books you read, the work that you're doing, the insights that you're tapping into, and actually applying it in your life in a way that's meaningful and generates not only results, but positive impact in the world. So Intuitive Impact Academy is about exactly this. We want to support you to decide on really powerful goals for the whole year. And then we want to help you to bring those goals to life in a way that's bigger and bolder than you can imagine on your own, all guided by your intuition. So we're not doing logic, superficial, action-taking based goal setting and achieving. No, we're taking it to the deepest level to ensure that you're aligned with your soul and that the work that you're putting in your life is about working smarter rather than just hard hustle. You're strategic and you're aligned with the highest vision for your life, guided by spirit, tapped into your intuition, and making moves that make real sense and lead to big results in the world. You know, you're a vessel for impact. You can make a real difference in so many people's lives. And too many of us are getting in our own way. We're in our own heads, we're overanalyzing, and we're overcomplicating the process. It's time for us to apply what we've been learning. And your intuition is going to help you do that in the most efficient way possible. So if you're interested in being coached and mentored by Lukis and I and our incredible team of Awaken Breathwork facilitators, this is an online program. It's 12 months. It's deep. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is for people who are ready to create a huge shift in the year ahead. You can learn more at awaken.com or at the link below. And if you feel the call, join us for the Intuitive Impact Academy. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, and one of the things we talk about is self-sourcing, which is a practice of tuning in and accessing those feelings in the now. So you mentioned that you wanted to feel important, you wanted to be seen, you wanted to feel secure. And when we talk about self-sourcing, we're saying that you don't have to wait to feel all of that you can actually access that from within yourself. And from accessing that within yourself, you get to step forward and bring all of that into the room. You get to step forward as that version of you entering into the room, which then creates a totally new way of how people respond to you because you're in the new story and you're generating it from within.
Yeah, exactly. This is how you transform and reclaim your power and you get unstuck. What I've noticed is that a lot of us tell ourselves when this external thing changes, then I will show up differently. For example, with that one, I would say to myself, when people see me, then I'll show up and be more confident. But it's actually the opposite. In order for people to see me, I have to show up with confidence and a feeling of knowing my own worth and being in that thinking, feeling loop.
Yeah, it's sneaky, right? Because those limiting beliefs will have you wait.
Exactly.
They'll keep you in a holding pattern because they're waiting for some time in the future where things are different. And like you're saying, it's actually the opposite. That's true. You have to move forward. You have to embody that now. That's the opportunity. And then people start responding to you as that.
Exactly. Another one that's been interesting, that's quite common, I think, is with social media going, when I have more followers or more traction with social media, then I will share and post more. But again, it's the opposite. Actually, if you get into a thinking, feeling loop of loving social media and enjoying creatively expressing yourself, you could have 5 followers and start in that energy, and it's going to skyrocket your progress with whatever you're doing with your social media exponentially more. And you're going to have more fun in the process and be less attached to the outcomes. And I think this is almost like God's way of playing with us and helping us grow as souls is you don't get the thing by having the external, the outcomes, the results make it easy for you. You unlock who you're meant to become when there isn't any evidence there, when you have to take the leap of faith, when you have to bank on yourself and, show up on the stage and rock that performance like there's 10,000 people there when there's only 10. That is God's way of being like, is this really for you? Like, are you truly a match to have this happen? Do you want it enough? And are you ready to tap in and get resourceful and scrappy enough that I should actually give this to you? Or are you only in it for the end result?
Yeah. So that's the key, identifying any disempowering stories first, and then how that's making you feel, and then how you're behaving. Because once you're aware of the stories that you're telling yourself, then you can interrupt them and choose again.
What would you say for you is a thinking, feeling loop that you've identified and got out of?
Yeah, while you were having the experience of not feeling good enough or not being seen or not feeling validated or wanting to take up more space, I was also in my own version of that. So I wasn't feeling good enough within. I was holding back so much, like just genuinely feeling not worthy, having low self-esteem. And I used to judge myself a lot, just from way back when I was a kid. So much judgment around how I looked. Used to hate the way I looked.
And what was the thinking, feeling loop for you if you were to go even more into the kind of granular, nitty-gritty details of how it felt and what you were thinking?
Well, it would go really self-destructive for me. It'd be like, you're ugly, no one cares, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're fat. I used to tell myself if I was fat a lot and that I was ugly because I grew up really overweight. So I felt really ashamed of the body I was in. So when I looked in the mirror, there was this feeling of just feeling like ugly and not good enough and fat.
I want to highlight something here, which is so important. Okay. It's one thing to say you're fat, but that actually has no inherent meaning. Like you could be like, yeah, I'm fat, but I don't care. But what did you have it mean?
I felt ashamed of myself. I felt a lot of shame because I felt hopeless. I felt like I was stuck there. And when I looked at other kids, they weren't overweight. And I didn't understand why I was. I didn't know what was happening to me. And I felt hopeless, unable to make a change. So I felt a lot of shame. So I walked around with that shame. And I took it everywhere I went. And even when I lost the weight, I still felt not good enough within my own body. So that was the disempowering story that I would tell myself. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And then I would feel down, I would feel disconnected, I would feel sad, and it would influence my behavior. I would hold back. I wouldn't be in main character energy. And even though you thought all these people wanted my attention, that's not how I was feeling inside. That wasn't my personal experience. I just felt unworthy.
It's so wild how common this is. You can be in a room with the most beautiful, wealthy, influential people and have all of these assumptions, your own thinking, feeling loops going on about how all of them must be feeling so good and so free because they've got no external perceivable problems. And actually, the thinking, feeling loops going on inside every individual vary so greatly. And you'd be amazed how many people are suffering so deeply.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are, how much money you have, how much external success you have. Everyone on this planet is oscillating between ascension and dissension, and we can unpack that, and moving through their own version of the thinking, feeling loop.
And everyone goes through phases of feeling stuck and not knowing how to shift it.
Yep.
And feeling like they're not living their best life or being their best self, and judging themselves for it. And something that successful people do well, which we can all learn from, is shifting a little quicker. Because when we loop and we stay stuck, we can dig the hole even further. And I think this is one of the trappings of inner work sometimes. This is the thing, right? I want to get this across. Just because you're doing inner work doesn't mean you're doing inner work that's actually effective. You can be doing a lot of moving furniture, basically. It's like, oh, look at this trauma. Now let's look at this one. Now let's look at this one. But are you finishing the job? Are you closing the loop? Or are you just looking at all your loops and going back and forth and letting it solidify the story that you're broken?
Yeah, I often talk about inner work as like going to the gym. And what I mean by that is once you're aware of the old limiting stories, the disempowering stories that you've been telling yourself that are probably historical, that probably started in your early developmental years, once you're aware of those stories, then you get to put in the reps. And the reps are with awareness comes choice. So every time you pause, you are aware of the old story, then you can interrupt it and you choose again, you choose another story based on what feels better, what feels like a more empowering story. And then you have to put in the reps. And the reps are repetition, inner intensity, like with emotion, and your inner authority connected to your personal power, because the old limiting beliefs were formed through a repetition, intensity, and authority. And you've probably been putting in years and years and years of reps on the old disempowering stories. So you're not going to just reprogram your system like that. It takes work. It's like going to the gym. You have to put in reps. And with reps, when you reprogram your brain and your nervous system to align with the new empowering story, which is going to take work, everything starts to shift because you're no longer looping in that old, outdated story unconsciously. It's there, you're aware of it, you're interrupting the pattern and you're choosing again. And that's what I mean by putting in the reps. And the more reps you put in, the more results you get, just like going to the gym. And a lack of reps equals a lack of results. So it's not enough to be aware of the old disempowering story. It's not enough to be aware of the limiting beliefs. You have to be actively choosing again and reprogramming and rewiring your system based on what feels more empowering. And you have to believe it. You have to walk as the one who is trying that on, who is exercising it, who is practicing it, who is entertaining it, and then taking action on it. And through that, that's when everything shifts.
I love the gym analogy because another part of this is just because something feels hard doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And just because you have a craving doesn't mean that you should follow it. And when it comes to rewiring your brain and breaking these thinking, feeling loops that you've been in that aren't supporting you, the craving to go into a thinking, feeling loop is going to come up again and again and again.
There can be an addiction to it.
Exactly. So if you can understand that just because you have a thought doesn't mean that you need to feed it, you will take your power back and get better results much more quickly. So it's the same as if you're trying to create a physical transformation. Just because you have a craving to go to the fridge and eat food that isn't healthy for you, that you don't need, you're not powerless to that. You have choice. You either get up and go unconscious, you do something that's out of alignment with your goals, or you can experience the craving, acknowledge the craving, realign with the goal, and choose again something that's aligned with a new story. And having choices that you set up for yourself in advance can be helpful. For example, okay, if I'm used to going into a thinking, feeling loop of I don't matter, I'm not important, people want to hear from you, and that's been going again and again and again, it's important for me to acknowledge that it's easy for me to go there. Like I have a tendency to go there. So it's like the path of least resistance. So what am I going to do when those thoughts show up? I have to make a conscious choice about where I want to redirect the story. What is the new story? What would I love to believe? And I shared with you earlier, right? I'd love to believe, okay, I'm confident, I'm free, I matter, it's safe for me to take up space. So that is what I've got to then choose again and focus on. And that's the reps. So I start putting in reps on those thoughts, generating new feelings. And in the same way that if you just keep going unconscious and feeding your unhealthy cravings physically, you will get negative results. If you keep going unconscious with your thinking, feeling loops, you will also get negative results. you've got to take responsibility and practice authority with yourself, which when it comes to this inner work means discipline. Like you need to create structure and not let yourself go rogue.
You've got to be connected to your personal power and devotion to yourself and to what you ultimately want.
Yeah.
Because this is in service to you. Because the old disempowering story is the thing that's keeping you separate from what you actually want. So the moment you're aware of it, there's an opportunity to shift it. So I'd like to talk about the 4-step process that we use to help shift it, because it's really simple. Mm-hmm. So first of all, you're aware that you've been telling yourself a negative or a disempowering story.
And it could be that you catch it in the moment and you're like, I am in a negative thinking, feeling loop right now.
And it could be something really simple. This is too hard. I can't do it. I don't have what it takes. I'm never going to be successful. I feel unsupported.
Or it might not even be that deep. It might be that you look around and you see dishes in the sink and you start thinking that you don't like it. And then you start feeling that you're annoyed. Or it could be that someone cut you off in traffic and you're thinking they shouldn't have done that. That was so rude. And suddenly you're spiraling into irritation and getting in a bad mood.
Yeah, so there's what's happening, which is what you're talking about, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic, or there's dishes in the sink, or whatever's happening.
You don't like the way you look in the mirror.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. And then what you're making it mean is another layer on top of that. So step 1 is awareness, becoming aware of the thinking, feeling loop. So what am I telling myself right now? What's the meaning that I'm making? And then how is that making me feel? Because once you become aware of what you're thinking and how it's making you feel, then you can pause and you can interrupt the pattern.
Yeah.
So that's step 1.
Awareness is the first step. You have to know what you're actually working with. And we can be fumbling around or trying to shift our state, not even knowing what's actually going on. And something that really helps me with building awareness in the moment when I'm in a thinking, feeling loop is I'll often catch myself going, I don't know why I feel this way. Like, oh, I feel frustrated. I don't know why. And I'll ask myself, if you did know, why? So, okay, if you did know why you were frustrated, why are you frustrated? And I just give myself a second space to develop deeper awareness, because often when we're going into self-inquiry, we're really impatient and we're doing it at a more superficial level where we're like, it should be obvious. But it can be subconscious, as we've mentioned. It can be something that we've compartmentalized from maybe earlier that day or earlier in the week. And deep down, it's still stirring within the system and generating thoughts and feelings. We're just not even aware anymore that that's where it began. It's like tracing the breadcrumbs back and finding it. And when you have the awareness of what's actually been going on and this series of thoughts and feelings that you've been generating, it can start to click into place what you actually need to move through, which we'll explain in a sec. But be patient with the step and retrace as far back as you need. So, okay, what am I thinking and what am I feeling? And how long have I been in this loop? For example, maybe it got reactivated just 10 minutes ago, but maybe it's been going on for a few days. And if it has been going on for a while, the earlier you go back on it, the more clarity you will have about what this is really about for you.
Yeah, no, that's a major key, because stress has a compound effect. So like you said, it might have been building for a few days or weeks or even months.
Yeah.
And you find yourself in this negative spiral. So
I'll give you a really brief example of that, which I think is helpful. Let's say if I have a breakout, right? If my skin's breaking out, I look in the mirror and I go, damn, I'm breaking out. I look really bad. And I go into thinking and judging myself and feeling self-conscious and frustrated and feeling sorry for myself. Okay, so that happens. Then I leave the mirror and I'm getting on with other stuff and I get busy. And I might think that I've let it go, but within my system, I'm starting to feel more and more negative. And that negativity is building tension and frustration and whatever else within me. And then it might be that you're like, hey, let's go out and meet up with so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to. And you're like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't feel like it. It's like, no, you don't feel like it because of that earlier thinking, feeling loop that began. So if you can become aware again of what triggered it, you can understand why you actually feel that way.
Yeah. So with awareness comes choice. So once you're aware of it, you can interrupt the pattern. You pause, create a little bit of space, you breathe, and then you go into step 2. And step 2 is acceptance. Now, some things are easier to accept than others. So I might be able to accept that I've been telling myself I'm not good enough or I'm not supported and I've been feeling down or disconnected or frustrated, right? I can accept that. Now, some things are going to be hard to accept. Like someone did something to me and it hurt me or it pissed me off or I feel betrayed. Moving to acceptance might be more of a process. So what would you have to accept in order to let this go?
Yeah. So in my little example, if I am feeling frustrated and I'm like, oh, damn, why am I breaking out? Why is this happening again? And then I'm feeling self-conscious and like I don't want to see people or whatever, it would be to accept that this is how it is right now and practice being okay with it.
This is how the present moment is right now. So instead of judging it or resisting it or thinking that it should be another way, you bring acceptance to it.
And another part of the acceptance is also to accept the thoughts that I have about it. Rather than making myself wrong for wanting it to be different, I could go, I can accept and understand that I want it to be different and that's okay.
Yeah, I can accept that I'm frustrated. I can accept that I'm sad or I'm down or I don't feel supported in this moment. I can accept
that there's a part of me that wants to withdraw right now. And if you can allow wholeness and space for these parts of yourself and your lived experience, just as it is authentically to be, your nervous system can start to relax.
Yeah, because what you're really doing is you're taking away judgment from the present moment and you're taking away judgment from yourself in the thinking, feeling loop. And as you bring more acceptance to all parts of you in that moment, like you said, your whole system can start to relax. Because what's been happening when you're in the thinking, feeling loop is your body is in a state of stress. You're in survival. And in that cycle of stress and survival, you have identified with the thinking, feeling loop, and you have lost connection to your higher self or your most empowered self.
This is such an important point for people to understand. When you go into a stress response, it's automatic. So you're no longer in the driver's seat of your reactions. Really, really key for people to understand. If you want to break a thinking, feeling loop, you need to learn to self-regulate, to get your nervous system into a state of safety so that you can access conscious choice. Because as long as you're believing that the threat is real, you're going to believe that the thinking, feeling loop is warranted. And it's like your primal self has hijacked the operating system and will be like, we've got it from here, thanks. The thinking, feeling loop is valid and we're going to run with it.
Yep.
So it's bringing in that higher level of awareness, cultivating a sense of safety, creating the space, accessing acceptance, allowing room for all of it, which opens up more choice and ultimately wisdom.
Yeah, and that moves you to step 3, which is authentic processing. So you've identified the thinking, feeling loop, you've brought acceptance to it. Now it's time to process how you're feeling. So I might be feeling frustrated or sad or down or angry, whatever the feelings are. With acceptance, you can start to process what's there. And it's simply through acknowledgement. This is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. There's many ways that you can process how you're feeling. You know, that could be through journaling or through breath work or meditation or going for a walk or moving your body. You get to choose how you want to process your emotions. But instead of staying stuck in that loop, you're bringing in some type of movement of the energy that's helping to authentically process what you're feeling.
Yeah. This is honestly why we created the Awaken Breathwork app, to give people guided experiences of authentic processing, because this is the how part that can feel very overwhelming or abstract and confusing for people, I think, where we're like, yeah, I want to shift it. I want to forgive. I want to truly accept this and not feel self-conscious or frustrated or down, but I don't know how. And so there are tools. Breathwork is an incredible tool to shift how you feel. What I love about it is it's not just addressing it at the thinking level. It's addressing it at the mind, the body, the emotion, and the energetic level. So you can actually process the full thinking, feeling loop in all of its aspects.
Yeah, and you're not waiting for the external to change. You're changing the way you feel about it internally. And that's where your power lives. Because the truth is, you don't have control necessarily over what's happening, but you do have control over your state. And you get to shift your physiology, shift your state through breath work, through meditation, through becoming aware of the thinking, feeling loop. And with that, you find your power. You find your way back to your most empowered self.
And that authentic processing for you could take 5 minutes. It could take an hour. It could take days. You know, if it's something really big, like grieving a loss, could take weeks or months. We are all processing our life experience at different speeds. And if you can meet it fully, you will move through it at the appropriate timing for you.
Yeah. And then that moves into step 4, the final step, which is moving onto the path of ascension. And do you want to break that down?
Yeah, ascension is the step where you choose a new story and you ask yourself, what would I love to believe and how would I behave if I believe that thought? And you start showing up in the new energy and spiraling upward and being more open. And this is where you take the driver's seat of your life and choose the new story. Like, it's really about creating what you want.
So you'll choose the new thoughts, the more empowering story, and then you start to put in the reps with repetition, intensity, and authority. And let's break that down. So as you're choosing the new story, the story that feels more empowering, the better story, the story that you truly want.
The one that feels supportive and nourishing and uplifting for you. Yeah.
Yeah. You get to repeat it over and over again. And as you're repeating that story, then you're connecting to the feelings associated with that story. So when I start generating thoughts like, I've always been enough, I'm good enough as I am, life is always working out for me, then that generates positive feelings, more empowering feelings like joy, feeling connected, feeling inspired, feeling hopeful. And I get to amplify those feelings. So as I'm turning up the volume on my self-talk, I'm generating those feelings from within and I'm staying with those feelings. I'm practicing putting in those reps. I'm not just saying it once or twice. I'm going on a rampage. I'm repeating it over and over again. And I'm generating a more empowering thinking, feeling loop. I'm staying with it till my whole system is amplified and I've raised my vibration. And that's what we mean by putting in reps around the new story. It's interrupting the old story and choosing again with conscious awareness of what would feel better, what would feel more empowering, and then putting in those reps, just like going to the gym and lifting weights, you're putting in those reps.
Yeah, and you know, just like going to the gym and putting in reps, when you first start, it feels hard. Maybe you don't look forward to it. Maybe you don't enjoy it. Maybe it doesn't feel authentic for you. Maybe you're like, I'm not a gym goer. Like, I'm not this person. This is not really me, but I'm giving it a go. In the same way, you might choose a new story and start generating new thoughts and be like, I'm not feeling it. That's normal. That's common. I hear this all the time with gratitude, where people start writing in a gratitude journal, for example, or listing their daily gratitudes. And they're like, yeah, I'm thinking the thoughts, but I don't feel grateful. Trust the process. It will come. With enough repetition, you start to believe it. And when you believe it, the feelings naturally follow. Usually what's occurring when you're not feeling it is it's indicating that you don't yet fully believe it. And that's okay. Just keep going with repetition, intensity, and authority. Keep showing up with discipline. Keep giving those thoughts more airtime in your mind on a daily basis. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Take it seriously. Respect the process. Keep showing up for yourself, and it will start to shift how you feel.
Yeah, in order to create the new story, you have to be willing to let go of the old story. So if you keep finding yourself looping in the old story and you're feeding it and giving it energy and attention, recognize that you're putting reps in on the old disempowering story.
Yeah. And the trick here is don't go into self-judgment or self-punishment when you go into the old story. Accept that it's a part of the human experience. Meet it with awareness, right? Okay, I'm going into the old story. That's what humans do. Acceptance. Yep, that is what humans do. And I am a human. Therefore, I am not exempt. I'm going to go into dissension sometimes. Authentic processing. Damn, I need to go shake that one off. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to lift some weights now. I'm going to go do a meditation or some breath work. Okay, ascension. I'm ready for the new story. I'm going to realign and refocus. I was judging myself for falling off. I get it. You know what? Progress rather than perfection. That's what I'm focusing on now. I'm back. Let's go. I'm ready for ascension. That is how you work the 4 steps.
Yep. And as you shift your state, recognize that you're returning back to your power. And you have the power to take control of your physiology and change your state through the way you talk to yourself, your awareness around the thinking, feeling loop, your self-talk, pausing, breathing, interrupting the pattern, and choosing again. Mm-hmm. So those 4 steps can help you in any stage when you recognize that you've been in a disempowering story. And what you're doing by choosing that and putting in the reps is you're rewiring and reprogramming your brain and nervous system. You're shifting your identity. And it takes time. It takes repetition like we've spoken about. But I really want to land the plane on what becomes possible through the new story, through the reps. So what have you noticed shift in your life through doing inner work around the old story and choosing the new story?
It is truly the difference between staying stuck and breaking through to become whoever you want to be. I think it is the greatest lost opportunity for people to believe that how they are is what they're stuck with. That is so untrue. It couldn't be further from the truth. We all have the power to choose again. And when you work these 4 steps, you can start asking yourself bigger questions, deeper questions, more honest questions about what you actually want for your life. And rather than being your own greatest block, where you are the one who is holding the key to the prison that you're in, that cage, you become the one that's liberating yourself and going, what else do you want? What else would you love? What else becomes possible now? How are we going to do that? Okay, we're going to figure out a way. From there, it's up to you. Like whatever you want to focus on and put the work in on, put the reps in on, it can be yours. The way to create whatever you want is to get your mind and your body in alignment with your vision.
Yeah, as soon as you get your beliefs and your nervous system in alignment with what you want and you start putting in those reps and aligning with it, then anything becomes possible. And we've seen this in our own lives, in our relationship to money, in our relationship to service and impact in our careers. We've been able to do things that once seemed impossible, that were once impossible. And now we've been able to open those doors.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started. We're on the path of continuous evolution. And things only get better and better through putting in the work. You begin to access new levels of possibility. And for me, on a personal level, I've gone from feeling like unworthy and not good enough to be in certain rooms around certain people, not really taking up space, not using my voice in the way that I wanted to now entering those rooms and feeling fully enough, using my voice to express myself authentically. And actually, that's the thing that creates impact in their lives, whoever I'm around, whoever I'm working with, and seeing the impact of that just through me being my authentic self, just through me not holding back and seeing the ripple effect and the change that it has. And that to me is my why. Like as we free ourselves, we give other people permission to do the same. And that's amazing when you start to see how you working on yourself has then benefited in a positive way the people around you, how they've been able to have a shift. And we've seen that in our families. We've seen that in our friends. We've seen that in team members. And it's so cool. So for me, that's the biggest why. As I work on myself and liberate the parts of me that have felt stuck, disempowered, and disconnected from my power, so too do I influence change around me. And that's ultimately why I came here, to anchor more light on the planet. And I know that's why you came here too.
Yeah. As we prepare to wrap up this podcast, I want to share 2 questions that I think illustrate this whole conversation so powerfully. And it's the difference in destiny, who we are, how we show up, how we feel, and what we end up creating. One way of living is to be asking yourself continuously, why me? Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? And the other question is, why not me? Why not me for all my dreams, all the things I desire, all the things that I see other people doing that I'm like, wow, that is so inspiring. They're so lucky. Why not me? The questions that you ask yourself, the thoughts that you think, and the feelings that you generate are determining how you show up every day of your life. And that is what is shaping your destiny. So take it seriously. Respect the power that you have as a human being and as a creator, and start practicing choosing your thinking, feeling loops consciously.
Yeah, you are the creator of your own personal reality. You are the architect and the builder, and you have the power to shift your state, to shift your physiology through becoming aware of the thinking, feeling loop, and then choosing again. So if you're tuning into this, don't just make this another episode where you watch it and then you don't apply the principles. Next time you catch yourself in a thinking, feeling loop that isn't serving you, work the 4 steps and then let us know in the comments if that helped you to create a shift. Thank you for tuning in. We're sending you so much love. Thank you for all the beautiful messages on the last podcast. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do. And if there's anyone in your community that would benefit from listening to this podcast, please send it to them.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Every share, every comment, it all adds up. It helps us get the word out. This means a lot to us, and we absolutely love recording these podcast episodes for you all. Till next time, big, big love, everyone.
Much love.